Well, I know that in the effort to want to always change, Anthony and I weren't as interested in playing funk music at that time. I mean, we had certain things, what funk songs there was, like, Can't Stop, like, that was something that came from me. So I wouldn't say that I was, like, against funk, but I didn't want to do any blues-based music on By the Way. That was my thing. Now blues is very important to me. And by the way, I just didn't want it to be blues based. So if Flea came in with something that was blues based, funky, I wasn't going to be into it at that time. That was just where I was at. I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. I just wasn't into it. I wanted, if I was going to, I didn't mind if something was funky, but I wanted it to be, to still have that European sense of melody. And, and, uh, and so, obviously, like, that was just where I was at the time. And I guess Flea did get frustrated a few times because he'd bring something in and I wouldn't get excited about it because it didn't fit into how I was thinking of the record. On this record, I'm really into blues. I'm really into funk. I'm loving the early Funkadelic records, especially, which are really blues based. And so this opened that up for me to be more open to that side of what Flea was doing, and for me to bring in stuff like that myself. Like I said, my taste just changes. I can't help it. It's like, it's not like I decide to like one kind of music and not to like another kind, but that's how I am. I get very opinionated about things, like in the same way that I was saying about how I didn't like flashy guitar players then, but I do now. At that time, I didn't want to listen to any music that had blues feelings in it. And now, like that, there's nothing that makes me feel better. I love like Muddy Waters and Lightning Hopkins and Howlin' Wolf, and like nothing makes me feel better than to listen to that kind of music. For me, like that and classical music right now are just like the end of all music for me. Um, at the same time, like Flea was also into that European sense of melody on By the Way. Like, there's a lot of songs. Like, it's not like Flea just writes funk and I just write melody or something. That's a false public perception. Universally speaking, Flea wrote that song. It's like a lot of the songs on By the Way that you think of as being like John type songs, they're not written by me. It's like and like I said, something like Can't Stop that you might like associate more with Flea, it's me. So these perceptions of the public, they're just people's perceptions. They have nothing to do with the real story. Flea was really into music like the Smiths and Susie and the Banshees when we were making By the Way. It's not like that was just me. There was some stuff that I just thought was out of character, for the rest of what we do, but at the time, I didn't think that I was limiting him. Maybe I just, I was just being honest about how I felt. On this, we're always honest with each other, but luckily on this album, like our two separate conceptions of how the record should be matched up, and were one thing. Same thing as Blood Sugar Time. Or where we both wanted the same thing, and that's how it ended up being with this album. And by the way, maybe to some degree we both wanted different things. On this album, we both just happened to want the same things. It's not like we decided to. We both happened to really think highly of the same kind of shit. Wu-Tang Clan was my favorite music while we were making this record, and Flea loves Wu-Tang Clan. So, we both. Or he'd be listening to Ice Cube and I'd be listening to Eminem or something, but they're similar enough to where we're both going into the studio with basically the same kind of frame of mind, and obviously that Jimi Hendrix thing is something Flea really has in his soul. So when I come to rehearsal and I just start soloing on the wah-wah pedal and doing feedback for a half hour, he's right in there with me, and we're just having fun.